Hey guys, welcome to this week's video. So this week it's a little bit different. We are going with a Q&A edition, question and answer. So had a few people send me in some specific questions which I can address with a lot of information in this longer format of video. So if you guys enjoy this, please let me know and I can do more of these in the future. Question number 1 is about percussion guns and whether they're effective for recovery or not. Now, for those of you who don't know what a percussion gun is, it's a tool that's used in massage therapy. Essentially, it looks like a drill, and on the end it's got a rubberized head that drives back and forth really quickly, and you can use it to massage achy muscles after training. It's supposed to help with recovery. These have been used in massage therapy for a long time, but recently they've come into the consumer market. Now everybody can just grab one. Now, tools like this that sort of jump onto the market, I'm a little bit skeptical of, because usually there's not that much research backing up why they're effective. So cool, you use the massage gun and you feel good afterwards, but do we know why you're feeling good and how it's working? Or is it just a placebo effect where your brain's saying, I think I should feel good after this, therefore I do feel good after using this gun? We don't know the effect, why it's working and how it's working. So I'm not sure whether it's something that you need to use. Also, the body's evolved to a point where you don't need that type of stuff in order to train well and recover well. There's millions of examples of people throughout the years who have trained effectively and recovered effectively without ever picking up a massage gun. So you don't need to grab a massage gun in order to recover really, really well. That being said, I go for a sports massage occasionally with Michael van Wyk, who is a very good sports massage therapist and is a lot more informed than I am on the subject, and he uses a percussion gun. He obviously finds that it is very effective and it does have benefit for him and his clients and what they're looking to achieve in the massage room. So, do I think everybody should be using a massage gun for a percussion gun for recovery? No, but in the correct context and in the right hands, there probably is some benefit to using it. Okay, question number 2, guys. This one is about rest days. How important are they and how often should you have a rest day? So let's just think about how training and how we progress in the gym. So what happens is we train, we then need to recover from that training, and that's how we progress. So that's how you get stronger, that's how you get bigger muscles, get fitter, etc., etc. What we do is we create a stress, the training, that's going to elicit an adaptation or a response from the body. We then need to put our body in an environment where it can recover from that stress, and after these two, the body then adapts to that stress and we progress. That's when we're getting stronger, building muscle, etc., etc. So you can see through that the rest and the recovery is an important part of the puzzle. Without that, training is useful. Your training is only as effective as your ability to recover from it. I can give you the best training program in the world, but if you can't recover from it effectively, it's not going to be useful for you. Now, that being said, how long you need to rest or recover between sessions the range is really wide. It all depends on what type of training you're doing, how intense that training is relative to your capabilities or your conditioning, what your actual age is, what your training age is, all these types of things, and what your lifestyle is like outside of the gym. All these types of things you need to think about in how you can and how you're able to recover from your sessions. A short, easy session, something like a brisk walk, you can do one in the morning, do one in the afternoon, do that for many days on end, and you're cool. That's more than enough recovery. But let's go on the other end of the spectrum. You think of like a top elite level power lifter, those guys do a max deadlift. Their recovery for that is going to take up to 21 days. That doesn't mean they're not training for 21 days, but that session is going to affect them for that long afterwards. So you can see, as I say, there's a lot of things you need to think about in terms of how you structure your rest days. So a good starting point is probably going to be 2 or 3 days of training. I find that after that, for most people, you begin to feel a little bit beat up. So then you take a rest day and you can repeat that going forward. But if you want to, you can experiment with that. Maybe go a little bit longer. Go 4 days of training, 5 days of training, and then take a day of rest and see how you go with that. See if you're able to keep making progress, not get sick, not get injured, or maybe you feel like it is a little bit too much, and then you know, okay, that's too much, I need to dial back. 4 days is the right spot for me. There's no hard and fast answer for this. You do need to experiment with it a little bit. But what I will say is I'd suggest rather taking a rest day before you have to than be forced to take a rest day. So don't think, cool, I'm feeling fine, I can keep going for, I don't know, a month on end without resting, and then all of a sudden, bang, you get sick, you get injured, and you're forced to rest. Rather dial it back. Okay, as soon as you start to feel a little bit down, okay, now I rest, come back next session, and I feel good. So like I say, 2 or 3 days, that's the starting point, and then rest after that. But if that feels too good, add an extra day. Go 4 days, go 5 days, and then take a rest day and see how that works for you. I hope this answers your question. Okay, last question for today goes like this. So how important is structured progressive overload versus just training harder and in a session-to-session context versus just training as hard as you can today and training harder and harder training harder than you did in your last session? Now, really, those are the same examples, but I think I understand what you're trying to say, and I'm going to try and give you a good answer to this. So for those who don't know, progressive overload is basically the principle of continually needing to up the stress or increase the challenge that you're placing on your body in order to keep progressing. You're going to adapt and become adapted to what you're doing pretty quickly. So let's say you wanted to increase your squat. You can't go 60 kg squats for sets of 5 for the rest of your life and think that that's going to keep getting you stronger. You need to continually increase the stress. So next week you need to be doing 61 kgs for sets of 5, following week 62, etc., etc. That's just a pretty basic example, but you get the idea. You can't do the same thing forever and expect to keep seeing results. You're going to become too adapted to that, and you're going to stop getting the results that you did. Progressive overload, the principle of it is hugely expansive. There are many different ways to implement it, and it's not just in a sort of session to session basis. It's not like today you did this much, next week you need to do slightly more. It goes beyond that. It's this week you did this much, next week you need to do slightly more. This month you do this much, next week you need to do slightly more. This year to year also. It's big, and it's always at play. If you're progressing, it's a principle that's always there. You are progressively overloading. Think of it like calorie deficit. If somebody's losing weight, they're in a calorie deficit, whether they acknowledge or not, it's there. It's the same thing with progressive overload. If you are progressing and you're getting stronger, getting bigger, getting fitter, you're implementing progressive overload, whether you know you're applying it or not. Now, back to your specific question. So how important is it to have structured progressive overload in your program versus just training as hard as you can today and training harder in this session than you did in the previous one? Like I say, it's basically the same thing, but I think what you're asking is, how important is that structure and sticking to specific weights and specific rep ranges, etc. Now, I think the answer is like everything in fitness, it depends, but I'm going to give you a better answer than that. It comes down to, I think, your training age. And if you're new, and new in this context, I think could probably go up to a few years, probably 3 to 5 years. And the reason being is during those phases, you're still going to be seeing results pretty quickly. The longer you stay in this game and try and get fitter and stronger, the slower it takes. But in those early years, you're going to be seeing results pretty quickly. So you're going to be getting stronger and getting bigger and getting fitter in a fast manner. And you going as hard as you can in your sessions and going harder than last session, you're implementing progressive overload. And you can do that just by going hard in your sessions and not having that much structured progressive overload to it. But once you've been in this for long enough and you've been training for long enough, there will come a time when you have to have structured progressive overload in order to keep seeing progress. And the reason is because there's going to come a time when just going harder or as hard as you can is not going to be doing more than it's not going to be creating enough stress for you to force an adaptation. So I'll give you an example here. If you're a strength athlete who want to get stronger, in the early days, you're going to be getting stronger pretty quickly. So for you, going harder means you're going to be adding weight onto the bar, session to session, week to week, month to month, year to year. But there's going to come a point when your adaptations and your progress is going to slow to such an extent that just trying to add weight on the bar isn't going to happen. I'm talking like you're only putting on 1 kilo onto your lifts per year. That's not enough to force an adaptation by just going hard every session. There has to be then structured progressive overload put into your program in order to create the changes that we want to. So answer is yes, you can just go as hard as you want in your sessions and get some form of overload and still see progress, but that's in the early years. And once you've been going for a while, you're going to need to put some structured progressive overload into it in order to see the results that you want to, and in the right areas. I hope that answers your question, guys. Like I said, if you enjoyed this formative video, please let me know and send in some questions, and I'll do these again from time to time, guys. I enjoy these. I hope you enjoyed the video. Otherwise, have a lekker weekend. I'll see you next week.